What's up, guys? Happy Thursday, almost Friday. Uh, how you guys doing today? How you guys feeling? Sorry I'm late here. I had a bit of trouble getting my mic suddenly decided to start acting up, but we're live at last. Thankfully. So today, what I wanted to talk about with you guys, obviously, by now you've probably seen that Mark Carney has announced the next batch of nation building projects. There were six of them. Six of them, according to the Prime Minister's office here. What I they today here are the projects that Makani announced today, and I want to get you guys I want to get your feel for what are you thinking of these projects? How are these projects looking to you? Are they really the nation building? In the true sense of the word. So obviously today the whole point of this is for me to get you guys perspective on things. If you're in the chat, just say hi to me, say hello, say hello, say hello. So the projects that Makani has announced today, he's announced the North Coast transmission line. He says and this is in Northwest British Columbia. This project is a foundation for cleaner, stronger, better connected for a cleaner, stronger, better connected Canadian economy. This project will tie the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor together. I was seeing in a few places that they were reporting the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor as a separate project. So they ended up, some people had 7 nation building projects announced today. But according to what the Prime Minister's office has put out here, there are actually 6. The Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor is actually under the North Coast transmission line. So I'll just go through the projects that were announced today. We've got the North Coast transmission line in Northwest British Columbia. The Silisms LNG, which is also in British Columbia. We've got Canada Nichols Crawford project, which is basically a nickel mine. And then we've got the Nouveau Monde Graphites Matawini mine, also a mine, but it's a graphite mine. I'll tell you why some of these mines are important. But you guys get in the comments. Tell me if you can hear me. If you can hear me, okay. Just say hello to me. And before we get into the discussion, I want to make sure you guys can hear me good. And the last project on the list that made the list today is the Northcliffe Resources, or basically the Sism mine. The Sism mine. That one is in New Brunswick. And obviously, there's been lots of reaction on these projects that were announced today. I will get into some of those reactions here. You guys say who's watching me? Who's watching this evening? Say hello. Say hello. I wanna have a great conversation, a great lively conversation with you guys tonight about these projects. How are you feeling about these projects that Nakani announced today? Obviously, there was no pipeline on this particular list. Some people were thinking this might be the day. It was not today, and there was no. I mean, at the time when Makani announced the 5 projects from September, there was talk that Pathways Plus, the carbon capture project in Alberta, would be on this second tranche of nation building projects. We didn't see that. There's obviously no pipeline. What I'm hearing is that essentially a pipeline or some of these bigger projects involving Alberta have their own kind of separate process, maybe perhaps because they're a bit more complicated, perhaps because of some of the pushback that might happen with crossing provincial lines, and some of the things that we've seen from the antagonism we've seen between Daniel Smith and David Eby at times, David Eby being the Premier of BC. So, how are you guys feeling about these projects today? I want to jump into the reactions though, because Pierre Poilievre was obviously very quick to react to this list of nation building projects, and I'm going to play you guys what Pierre Polyev had to say actually today. And you guys tell me if you agree. Tell me if you feel like Polyev is obviously this was something that Polyev said about the first batch, the first 5 projects that Mark Carney announced. You'll hear it now. Just listen up. Okay, let's see.
Yet again, instead of getting things done, Mark Carney was standing up doing photo ops, announcing that he's going to approve a bunch of projects that were already going to happen. One of them, the Sisson mine in the East Coast. This mine, there was a Liberal minister, Dominic LeBlanc, who said that his government was going to make sure this project got underway within a year, and that was back in 2017. Now today, Mark Carney is re-announcing that same Liberal promise.
Okay, of course, YouTube cuts to an ad. Yeah, so but that's basically the gist of Pierre Poilievre's reaction here to this particular list of nation building projects. Obviously, Mark Carney announced the Sisson mine in New Brunswick, and Pierre Poilievre is right. This project is not new. This project has been talked about before. A lot of these projects have been talked about before, and in many regards, it is correct for Pierre Poilievre to be saying that Mark Carney is trying to spike these projects in at the end zone. He's basically trying to take credit for something that he did not necessarily start or originate. That is a fair criticism, but I will caveat that and say that maybe, and this is something I'm starting to really come to terms with myself. This evening, actually, just before I came live, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources was on Power and Politics on CBC, and actually gave some context for this, but I want to know how you guys feel about this idea of projects being reannounced, because Polyev is right. Polyev is absolutely right. These projects are not new. Mark Carney hasn't gone and brought a project that no one has ever heard before to as a project of national interest. He has essentially taken projects that already exist, put a little bit of wrapping paper on it, and said, okay, you know what, we're gonna get this project over the line. Is that still valid to you? Is that valid to you? That's what I want to know. You guys get in the comments, let me know. Is that a valid approach, or is Mark Carney really just, taking credit where perhaps it isn't due? Because I will say, especially, I mentioned that the minister, Tim Hodgson, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, was on. Okay, so R says Canada needs good project management with tight and amazing Gantt charts. Yeah, they, and this is the fundamental point, right? This is the fundamental point with a lot of these projects. I think when people think about these nation building projects, they're expecting new ideas, and they're thinking of groundbreaking stuff, and in many regards it seems to kind of like throw some water on it for people that, okay, these are projects that, like the Sisson mine that Pierre Polyev mentioned. Well, that project was announced in 2017 to a lot of fanfare at the time, and it hasn't been built almost 10 years later. Okay, and so you have to ask the question. Then you arrive at the point where you have to ask the question: is this just another photo op? Will anything really change? Like, what is the point of this new major projects office that Mark Carney has created? What is the point of re-announcing these projects and effectively, what is being achieved here? That is a valid question to ask, because here's what this. Okay, so R says Mark Carney isn't wrong. It is valid as long as it is completed. He will only deserve credit when it is completed. For now, zero credit. Yes, and that makes sense to me, right? What one of the things I want to say is this, right? We in Canada, as you see with a lot of these projects that are coming forward now, a lot of these projects are not new. So we do not lack ideas or projects that can potentially grow this economy and grow this country. What we lack, or what we've lacked over the last forever, really, because I mean, we could extend that to the last five projects that Mark Carney announced in September. The Core Terminal, the Port of Montreal expansion, has been talked about since like decades ago, maybe even more than 20 years ago, I want to say, if my memory serves. These projects have been talked about for so long, and sure, they've been announced a few times, but and I'll go through the list with some of these projects, and you'll see you see in a bit some of the problems that they faced, and why it is important that this framework that Mark Carney has put in place works. It has to work, because if it does not work, we would have basically lost the moments that we're in right now, which is a moment where this country needs to get productive, this country needs to diversify, and jobs need to be created. We need to grow this economy. That it is very important, right? Adoy Fashion says Canada needs no groundbreaking projects. We need finishing projects. And I agree with that. And that's a good place for me to tie into some of the things here. So I'll give you an example of the North Coast transmission line here. And that particular project, part of what has delayed that project was first announced maybe in the 2010s or something, in the 2010s. And what stopped that project? It was high costs, it was regulatory approvals, and obviously we know how much our regulatory framework in this country can be an impediment to companies, and to it can be an impediment to investment, right? I mean, we've heard the conservatives and Polyev talk about this to no end. Our regulatory framework in this country impedes investments. It pushes away investments, right? And the Silisms LNG, the Silisms LNG project, that one I think was delayed. That one was first announced maybe in 2021, and that one is currently, even now that it's been designated a nation building project, it is facing two legal challenges. It is facing court challenges right now from two First Nations already, right? So you start to see some of the impediments that have long stood in the way of some of these projects, and it's not just our regulatory framework. It's not just funding in certain cases. In the case of the Nickel Crawford project, that one, at some point the market data wasn't very good for the market's perspective there was a bit of weakness in the nickel markets, and so and there were also some permitting delays that had delayed this project, right? So those are some of the projects, but I want to talk about I want to talk a bit more about there's a bit more controversy. Yes, when you look at the list of projects here, a lot of these projects are things that have been announced before. The Sism mine, as we said, 2017. The Matawini mine from maybe 2013, right? So none of these are new. So that's one of the controversies that Polyev has rightly pointed out. And this is not the first time we've talked about the liberals have put forward some of these projects, but fundamentally, importantly, they haven't necessarily moved as we would want them to, right? And so rightly, the questions were put to Mark Carney today. What is different about this? What is different this time about referring these projects to the major projects office? Because that is all Mark Carney is doing when he announces these nation building projects. He is referring these projects to the nation building to the major projects office. It doesn't mean that they will get all the approvals. It doesn't mean that the investors will eventually choose to move ahead with doing the project with their funding decision. It doesn't even mean that the project is going to ever get built. It just means all Mark Carney is doing here, and in that sense, Pierre Poilievre is right to say this is a follow up, because all Mark Carney is doing is referring these projects to a major projects office. This doesn't even mean that they will be referred to, that they will be designated projects of national interest. At that. Right? This doesn't even mean, I'll repeat that, it doesn't even mean that these projects, because by virtue of the fact that they've been announced today, are projects of national interest. This is literally just an announcement. So effectively, Pierre Poilievre is right to say it is just a follow up. But I want to get into a comment I got on TikTok actually. I think let me see who it was that I think that was Tony from Etobicoke. Tony from Etobicoke. Let's see, where is it now? Tony from Etobicoke says, I gotta get your comment, Tony. I gotta get your comment. Where is Tony? Tony from Etobicoke says to me, one of the projects is owned by a US company using Chinese and Korean steel. And that actually is a brilliant catch. It's a brilliant catch because yes, yes, for the Silisms project is being marketed as an indigenous led project with focus on focus on economic reconciliation with First Nations. That's the way this project has been marketed. The Silisms LNG project. However, as Tony from Etobicoke rightly said, this project is effectively owned by an American company. By Western LNG, that's the name of the company, the American company that owns this project. And effectively, when it is built, it will use Korean and possibly probably Chinese steel to build these products. Sorry, to build the floating LNG facility essentially. And so what you then have to think to yourself, what is the nation building whatever? What is the nation building angle on this project, on the Silisms project? It is currently facing court challenge. There is that. But what is the nation building angle on this project? What is the nation building angle on the Silisms project? It is not using the government of Canada says he wants to focus. Mark Carney has told us he wants to focus on a buy Canadian policy. Well, the Silisms project doesn't use Canadian steel, right? It's using Chinese and Korean steel. But also, it's not even owned by Canadians. It's owned by Americans. So what is this? What is this? What makes this project nation building, right? So you guys get in the comments. How did you feel when you heard about when you saw the list? Now about this Silisms project, I will say that Mark Carney actually got asked about the fact that, well, where is the Canadian content in this particular project? If it's not owned by Canadians and it is being built with parts from elsewhere as well, how does this benefit Canadians? And the answer that Mark Carney gave, I want to see if I can pull it up for you actually. Let me see if I can play this for you guys. It might be helpful to play the video, but let's see if I can get it to work for you guys. Let's see. I will put it here and put that on there. Okay, so someone is asking here. Oh, that's not the question. Anyways, I'll leave that for now because it might take me a while to find that. But that was a fundamental question there. But the answer essentially that Mark Carney gave for that was that there obviously is a pipeline that needs to that will be delivering the natural gas to this particular facility, the Silisms facility, the floating terminal essentially, um, and and there will be jobs for Canadians in the building, in the construction of that particular pipeline. Um, and okay, I'm getting a comment here. So go on. Okay, so I'd be interested in getting you guys' thoughts on this. But Makani's explanation for why the Silisms project is on the list of nation building projects, even though it's not owned by Canadians, or not does it use product steel from Canada, is that, well, there are a bunch of infrastructure around this project that will be beneficial to Canadians, right? Some of these infrastructure will include the okay. So some of this infrastructure will include obviously there's a bunch of the pipeline still needs to be constructed, so there's a bunch of materials that need to go into that. And there's also, and there's obviously a bunch of spin-off kind of jobs that will come from the construction of the pipeline going to the Silisms facility. You get me? Okay, so that was McCartney's justification for including this project as part of the projects he is referring to the major projects office. The other question that, okay, so R says the product will be in Canada. Must this be must it be all Canada material and stuff for it to benefit Canada? Well, it's because the reason why people ask these questions is because, well, McCartney has said that he wants these dollars, these precious Canadian taxpayer dollars, to go the furthest they can, right? And if you're providing all this infrastructure around a certain facility, but you're not buying Canadian, which is something that McCartney has been marketing with all these with all these projects and with the core industrial strategy. If you're not doing that, and you're not and essentially the company that will profit is an American company, then it makes sense that people have these concerns about this particular project. However, this expands. The truth is, this particular LNG facility is going to expand Canada's export of LNG. I think McCartney said it will be the second biggest LNG facility once it is completed in Canada, right? And so that is important. That is important perspective. I also said about there is going to be, there doesn't, the pipeline to support this particular facility does not currently exist, right? And so the idea is that some of the infrastructure around this particular facility is going to make it worth it in the end to build this particular facility. R says, I don't even have anything against all the projects. The only problem is that we know these projects won't be completed. It will be abandoned with lots of billions wasted on it as usual. And that is the fundamental concern that many people hold over these projects. And this leads me, that's a perfect segue, because it a lot there were questions today at the press conference put to Mark Carney about, well, if these projects, what is the point of referring these projects to the major to the major projects office? Well, there was an answer today. First from McCartney, but also the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources was, like, as I said, was on CBC today, this evening, and he actually gave some inkling as to what is actually going on with these projects. Because, as you know, McCartney referred some projects in September, as it was, to the major projects office. So what's going on with these projects? Well, in a second, I want to play you what the minister says here about what is going on with these projects. As soon as I can get it up for you guys right now.
Development. So what does this tangibly change for these projects?
So, the last time I was here with you, we talked about it's important to punch the ball into the end zone. What we're doing is getting a number of projects that are important to Canada, that are important to our success. And they're getting down towards the 20-yard line, and we're focusing on getting them across the end zone. So when we talked, I'm up in Timmins today at Crawford Nickel, an amazing project, second largest nickel deposit in the world, one of the lowest cost nickel operations. When it's up and running, it's going to use technology it'll be a net zero footprint nickel mine, actually a negative net zero mine because of some of the sequestration around their tailings management.
Right.
Um, Getting these across the line is incredibly important. So what we're doing is working with them to make sure all of the permitting is done not in sequence but in parallel, so we can get it done as quickly as possible. Working with provinces where we need to do that. So in this case, with Ontario, and then working closely with the company to ensure it has the best possible financing packages to attract the right capital from the private sector, the right capital from our allies to get projects like this built. That's what it does.
So when do we start to see the tangible results of this? Because I appreciate that mega projects, they take some time. And the goal is to speed that up. But there is what you mean when you talk about moving fast and what public expectations are when people talk about moving fast. I mean, when do we tangibly see the projects, say, that were referred in September actually get a designation as a project of national interest? Like, what's the timeline on that sort of a process?
So the Foran mine has said with its referral to the MPO, they believe they can be up operating in 2026. LNG Canada 2, with the referral to the MPO, has said they expect to make an FID, a final investment decision, in the spring of 2026. Just thinking about the Red Chris mine,
Right.
another fantastic opportunity. With the support we're providing in coordination with the Tahltan Nation, who are partners in that, we expect that mine to be executing on its major expansion phase in 2027. Darlington is a situation where the project's already under construction. The challenge is it wasn't fully financed in an optimal way. Working with the MPO, we've already executed on an improvement in the financing, which will make the project more affordable and manage the first of a kind risk. That project will be the first SMR in a Western country. It will solidify supply chains and create export opportunities for Canada. These things are all starting to happen
Right.
in a very positive way.
There's some reporting in the Toronto Star today, Minister. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's some documents that they've obtained where they talk about skepticism and if not reluctance by some of the projects to participate in this process. That a document talks about the Contrecoeur terminal, for example, saying that the proponent had hoped to move forward more quickly than the Major Projects Office designation would allow, and they feared that if there's legal challenges to C5, for example, that projects could move slower because it could get caught up in that. How real do you see that risk? What assurances do you have that that won't happen to anyone who gets referred to the MPO?
I've yet to hear a single entity that's been referred to the MPO think it was not a good thing. So if you've heard something from somebody at the Port of Montreal, I'd be interested in hearing that because I certainly haven't heard that.
Okay, well,
Okay, so that was that was Minister Tim Hodgson there, talking about the major projects that were referred in September and what is actually going on with these projects, right? And he talks about how the designation or the referral of these projects to the major projects office is meant to help streamline the approval process, make it easier for the investors who are putting money into these particular projects to get approvals. It's supposed to cut down approval timelines, basically, but it's also supposed to cut build time for these projects. And this is the fundamental bit of clarity I think we got today from the questions that got asked to Tim Hodgson and to Mark Carney today after the announcement of these nation building projects. Because yes, as I said, the announcement of these projects as nation building does not imply that they are automatically approved. It does not imply that they're going to get funding. It does not imply that they're going to get built. Is my point, right? And so what is the whole point? Well, today we got that clarity that they are indeed trying to punch these projects in at the end zone, as Minister Hodgson said here, because as we know, the problem, as R rightly said in the beginning of this, the problem with Canada has long been execution. It's not a paucity of ideas. It's not a lack of ideas. It is really the execution of these projects that has been problematic for the country, right? So that's what we know today about these nation building projects. Yeah. So today I think I'm gonna keep it short. I'm not gonna wait up too long because I feel like you guys are a bit more quiet today, and I mean, we don't want to be yapping for yapping's sake, right? Adoy Fashion, thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks for joining me tonight. And yeah, it's been a bit quiet today. Tony from Etobicoke messaged me earlier on TikTok. So yeah, those are the comments today. But if you guys are watching after I'm live, obviously get in the comments. Let me know what you think of Mark Carney's latest batch of nation building projects. Yes, it is, as I said, Pierre Poilievre's statement that these projects a lot of them were already approved. A lot of them are under construction. And this is a theme with a bunch of these projects now, right? Today, we're getting a little bit of clarity that indeed, Mark Carney and his team are trying to punch these projects in at the end zone because, as we know in this country, the problem is not a lack of ideas. The problem is a lack of execution. Right. And so their thing is they want to hopefully cut down the timelines on these projects, the execution of these projects, the delivery on these projects, where a project might have taken 10 years to deliver to the people. They want to try and streamline the process, make it faster, see if we can get those projects to come online a little bit faster. Right. Now we're starting to get some clarity on what the major projects office is, what it does, what it's supposed to, how it's supposed to actually boost our ability to get projects done in this country. Whether it will work or not, I don't know, right? And that is the $1 billion question. That is the fundamental question here, and that is just something that we will have to see in the end, right? Anyways, I'm gonna roll the credits now. If you're watching right now, just say hello to me in the comments. If you're watching after I'm live as well, great. Nice of you to watch, but also join me live. I'm live every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. We talk about stuff as they come up. Today we're talking about the nation building projects and some of the matters arising. Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Thank you. Roll credits are Adoy Fashion, Tony from Etobicoke. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you next time. Take care.